6. Call to order this session of the Atwater City Council meeting for March 28th, 2016. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and those watching at home. If you will please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance at this time, followed by the invocation by Chaplain McClellan. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, as we approach your throne tonight, we're so thankful that we can. We thank you for the fact that we've gathered here in order to be with our city council members and our mayor as like to discuss the affairs of our city. We ask that you give them wisdom. We do pray for our firefighters that are out right now. We ask that you protect them, build a hedge around them, get them home safely. We also think of our police, and Father, we just ask you to be with each patrolman, and Lord, to protect them and get them home safely to their families. We thank you for their service. And Father, we do pray tonight that everything that is said and done tonight would be that to glorify thy name. For we do ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Bergman?
Here.
Raymond?
Here.
Rivera is absent. Vineyard?
Present.
Price?
Yep.
We have a quorum. Mayor or city attorney report out from closed session?
No
Deputy
action was
City
taken.
That's not a problem.
Okay. Approval of agenda as posted or as amended?
Are there any items that any of the council members would like to amend or remove for separate consideration or amendment? Hearing none, will entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
First and a second.
And Raymond. Yep.
Call for the
Okay.
question.
Raymond?
Yes.
Bergman?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. Presentations, MCAG Civic Spark regarding funding opportunities and resources for sustainable planning activities.
Hi, my name is Rebecca True. I am a Civic Spark AmeriCorps Fellow, currently serving here with MCAG, and today I'm here to share with you some resources you can use to really spearhead sustainability initiatives in Atwater. But first, a little bit of background. I'm not going to go too much into this, but clearly with agriculture being such a big part of our economy here in the valley, we are facing some uncertain times with the drought and increased pollution levels and resource scarcity, so obviously adapting to a changing climate is really key. Some state legislation I'm sure you're also very aware of. AB 32 commits California to reaching 1990 greenhouse gas emissions levels by 2020, and these reductions are only going to get stricter. The hope is to be 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. This goes along with a 50% reduction in petroleum use, 50% more energy, more renewable energy sources, and doubling the energy efficiency in existing buildings. SB 375 also mandates the inclusion of a sustainable community strategy in the RTP, which really forces us to consider current and future emissions when planning the future of our cities. And this is really the current political climate that we find ourselves in today. I expect a lot more regulations down the line, and I know that there is a lot of fear and apprehension in this county particularly about how we're going to be able to meet those goals with the current resources that we have today. So that's where I come in. As I said before, I am a Civic Spark AmeriCorps Fellow. AmeriCorps is a national program that sponsors service projects as social solutions, and they do everything from education to healthcare to poverty alleviation and natural disaster relief. The Civic Spark program specifically came about through an initiative by Governor Brown to really help support local governments in adapting to climate change and mitigating those effects. So there are about 48 of us fellows this year throughout the state in 9 different regions, and we're working on everything from greenhouse gas inventories and benchmarking to climate action planning to sustainable transportation and energy efficiency, water rights, et cetera. So my position specifically here is working in collaboration with Merced jurisdictions and ensuring that we're able to meet those state goals from the previous slide, and also helping to be a free resource for any research or climate action projects you'll be doing this year. So the first it's cut off. The first resource I want to share with you today is the Active Transportation Program. Their goal is to increase the usage of active transportation modes to increase public health and safety for all income levels. This project, or this funding specifically focuses more on school children in disadvantaged communities because those kids are more likely to walk and bike to school and also have less safe roads on which to travel. So by ensuring clearly marked crosswalks, proper signage, and protected bike paths, we are ensuring the safety of those travelers and encouraging more and more people to use those alternative modes as well, which reduces emissions and increases physical activity. The next is CMAQ, which stands for Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, and this funding can go towards any transportation project that helps to improve air quality and traffic congestion. This is an example of the G Street underpass in Merced, and it's not a CMAQ project, but it very well could be. Those are train tracks up above on the bridge, and so instead of having to wait for the train to pass by, those cars can just bypass the tracks, which really has helped to streamline traffic flow and reduce idling. CMAQ funding can also go towards alternative transportation infrastructure, so there's bike lanes on either side of the street as well as a protective bike path. So all those elements, protected pedestrian path, excuse me. So all those elements together really help to improve air quality and reduce traffic congestion. PACE is another great program. I know Atwater is involved with HERO, which is awesome. But PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. And if you think about it, in a non-PACE city, property owners will have to pay for the weather stripping, the sink aerators, the clean energy sources, all out of pocket for themselves if they want to reduce their energy usage or their water usage. But in a PACE city, the city offers the property owner a loan to finance those upgrades, and the property owner then pays back that loan over a period of 10 to 20 years. And it's been a really great program because, yes, it is a higher property tax bill, but these property owners are also benefiting from lower energy bills and lower water bills, so there really isn't any financial risk to participate in this program. So yeah, really, really great program. CAL FIRE also has an urban forestry program, which has helped for tree planting projects, green infrastructure kind of projects, tree management, and stuff like that. And trees have so many benefits, as we know. I couldn't even list them all here. They provide a cooling microclimate to really help reduce the urban heat island effect. They could shade homes for energy conservation. They can extend the life of surface streets by sheltering those streets and really from the elements and the hot sun. They can filter the air, they filter water, they improve soil quality. They can increase property values by providing a nice green aesthetic and fight crime. If you click on that link, it goes to a study out of Philadelphia where they filled in vacant lots with trees and greenery, and before those trees went in, the vacant lots were filled with a lot of crime and gun violence. But once the trees went in, the community members really wanted to keep that up and keep that nice, and crime rates went down, and that study was replicated multiple times, so definitely a good thing. So I say trees are superheroes and a really inexpensive way to add to improved air quality, their cooling effects, and to community revitalization projects. Now I know staff capacity is still a really big issue in these parts, so I've been doing some work with Sustainable Energy Roadmap, which is an initiative available at no cost to Valley jurisdictions, and what it is a program that helps you to identify high-impact, expert-recommended sustainability goals that really are cost-effective and they really think will benefit your community the best. So there are 4 categories: land use, transportation, energy, and water. And basically all you have to do to participate in this program is fill out a benchmarking survey where you go through the different expert recommended goals and identify which ones that you want to pursue. And that requires approximately 60 hours of staff time, so it's not terribly time consuming. And then once that benchmarking survey is completed, the Sustainable Energy Roadmap will generate an implementation plan for you and go through assessment and reassessment, any kind of training or support you need in reaching those goals and also in moving forward. They also contain an extensive resource library filled with case studies from across the nation and different templates that you can copy for your own use. So it's a really great program to look into and take advantage of, what is basically free consulting to you guys. They also offer a $5,000 stipend to the first 18 jurisdictions that sign up. Last time I talked to them, there were about 13 signed up already, so there's still time to get in on that if you want, and jurisdictions have used that $5,000 to pay for the extra staff time or hire an intern to take this on and paid them with that stipend. So lots of things you can do with that. I'm also available to help you with any step in this process, with a benchmarking survey or whatever. The roadmap people are also very accommodating, and we want to work together to help you reach your goals. I am also in the process of developing an internship program for Merced County jurisdictions, specifically to support or lead climate action projects. I think it's a really great way to provide local opportunities for educational development and professional advancement for local community members. So if you are interested at all in taking on an intern to either do any kind of research or planning for any climate projects, you can let me know, and we can talk about maybe customizing a framework to meet your entity's needs. This is my contact information. The URL at the bottom goes to my Civic Spark webpage, but if you can't remember that, you can just go to the MCAG site and you'll see Civic Spark on the sidebar, and you can click on that, and you'll find a whole bunch of different tools and resources there. Articles of interest, lots of tools that help you can find local data and information regarding different programs. I also have a list of grant programs that are currently available, and I update that continuously, so definitely a good page to bookmark if you can. And if you have any questions, I'll take them now.
Are there any questions for Ms. True from the council? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very informative. Mr. Raymond.
I was just wondering how in line this is with the UN Agenda 21 project.
It's a separate project for sure. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Comments from the public. At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. Please state your name and address for the record. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. To comment on an item that is on the agenda, please wait until the item is read for consideration. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes.
Are there any members of the audience tonight that wishes to speak at public comment?
Helen Amarant, 4860 Clover Avenue. I'm here regarding the fence, the block fence between our property and the hotel. Today, the temporary fence was taken down, so I need to know what's going to happen because I have to secure my property. I can't.
You're asking with respect to the project?
Yeah, where is it going? Is it going anywhere, or, because I have to go ahead and secure my property.
Mr. Petrie?
Yeah, as of today, we have got no plans at all. So let me get a hold of the developer tomorrow and find out what the status is, and I'll call you. But as of now, there is no plans at all for that development.
Okay, well
Okay.
then I will just,
I'll give you a call.
okay. Do you want me to write my,
We know who you are, Helen.
and I also think it's much too cold in here, so you're wasting energy.
You are not alone in that.
Jeannie Knight, 3218 North Buhack Road, Atwater, California. Since there's nothing going on with that building, I hear it's canceled. We really don't need to be in the city limits anymore. I mean, we really don't want to be there, so there's really no sense putting us there now. Maybe at a later date when that man decides he's going to build something, which won't probably be in our lifetime. And secondly, how much do you guys pay in workman's comp and liability insurance? Does anybody know that per year?
We'd have to get that information to you. We don't have that here right now.
You guys should have to know. You need to bring all that stuff and I'm going to ask those
when you're old like
questions.
me, you can't commit all those numbers all at one time. I just don't have that kind of capacity.
One more thing. Allied Waste, is it supposed to be paying you 10% of the roll-off business they're doing in the city of Atwater?
Mr. Petro, do you have?
They are.
I've looked and looked in the money that's received and not seen one single payment that they've made. Maybe it's in there and I missed it.
Yeah, I believe it is in there. LaQuinder, can you look that up for us and get back with
Whoops,
Mrs.
I put
Knight?
my wrong address. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Anyone else wishing to address the city council at this time? Seeing none, move on to the next agenda item.
Consent calendar. Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Are there any items on the consent calendar that any of the council members wish to remove for separate consideration this evening? Any items on the consent calendar that any member of the audience would like to address? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Call for the question.
Bergman?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. Petitions. Discussion and possible action regarding MOU among agencies within the Merced groundwater subbasins following the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act.
Good afternoon. My name is Lacey Curiaco. I'm the Water Resources Coordinator for Merced County, and I'm here to talk to you about the MOU that is a joint effort between Merced County and the Merced Irrigation District. That is an effort to bring in all of the public water agencies in the Merced subbasin to comply with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act is a California legislation that was passed in 2014, and it establishes a new structure for managing groundwater in California, and it holds local agencies to a new higher standard. This act encourages local control of groundwater management. However, there are requirements in the law, and if those are not met, that the state then the State Water Resources Control Board can intervene in the local management of groundwater. Under SGMA, there are certain deadlines that are set starting next year in June 2017 that local agencies must meet in order to avoid the state intervention. And the first deadline is to create one or more groundwater sustainability agencies that would cover the entire Merced subbasin. The second requirement is for these newly created agencies to create a groundwater sustainability plan that covers the basin and brings the basin into sustainable management over the course of the implementation of that plan, which is 20 years. So it'd be sustainably managed by the year 2040. After reviewing the requirements of this legislation, Merced County and the Merced Irrigation District agreed that a collaborative approach to this would be best for the Merced subbasin. We'd be able to leverage the resources that we have, not just financial resources, but expertise, staffing, time, databases and information, programs that are already developed in order to successfully implement the legislation here locally and maintain local control of our groundwater. So the MOU is basically it's a good faith agreement among the public agencies. So all of the public water agencies were invited to join this effort for the Merced Subbasin. And it's an agreement that will work together to implement the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, creating as few groundwater sustainability agencies as possible and creating one plan that covers the entire subbasin. The MOU doesn't create any financial obligations. It really doesn't obligate the city of Atwater to anything other than to work together. So it doesn't create a JPA, it doesn't create a groundwater sustainability agency at this time, but that would happen in the coming next steps, basically. Right now, our request to the city council is whether you want to participate or not. So we're just looking for the public agencies who want to participate in the MOU. The next step after that, the finalized document will come back to you for adoption. And then after that is when we'll work on the governance structure for a groundwater sustainability agency and those discussions. So any of the parties of the MOU will create the governance structure for the groundwater sustainability agency. So I understand that you might have some questions. I want to make sure that you're able to feel comfortable moving forward with this. We appreciate Councilmember Vineyard's participation in our first meeting and his representation, and we think it's important for the city of Atwater to have a seat at the table and be involved in this process. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about the MOU at this time.
All righty. Is there anyone that has any questions pertaining to the MOU? Okay. Mr. Raymond.
I don't have a question pertaining to the MOU. I just would like to congratulate you on your move from the UC to Merced County and welcome you to be working with us, and the county's lucky to have you.
Thank you.
I was curious, you said that the JPA would be formed at a later date. What will drive putting that together? Are you trying to get everybody on board with the MOU first and then come to that?
Exactly. So this deadline of next summer, June 2017, is when we have to have that formal groundwater sustainability agency, and that can be created through a JPA. So that's going to be the deadline that we're going to meet for this. But right now, we're just trying to pull everybody in the subbasin together to work in the same direction. Multiple groundwater sustainability agencies can be created, but we really see the most efficient way to move forward is to collaborate together. And in the Merced subbasin, there's a history of this collaboration. Magpie, the Integrated Regional Water Management Program are all collaborations that many of the same agencies work in together. And so this is a similar vein to that, except this is strictly for the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, and it's just for groundwater. It's not for surface water.
Okay. And with respect to the MOU, have we had council take a look at that for form and content by chance?
Yes, and it is acceptable.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Raymond?
So this is mandated by the state, correct?
Yes.
So if we chose not to join or sign on, then we're just going to have whatever imposed on us either way, right?
Well, if you choose not to sign on and if you choose not to join the Groundwater Sustainability Agency that the other parties are creating and you're separate, then you're going to have to create your own Groundwater Sustainability Agency. If you don't create one and we don't meet the requirement of the law, that's when the State Water Resources Control Board can intervene.
Okay, thank you.
And further also, just because I went to the Sigma training, in the end, if we form our own, then we end up having to work with them as well, because there's going to be portions where we overlap, and so there's going to be conflicts, so we end up having to work with them as well to resolve those conflicts. And there's many counties up north that are already going through those issues where they're having territorial conflicts. And so they're having some difficulties and having to go through that whole process where they all have their GPAs or their SG,
GSA.
yeah, GSAs and whatnot now, and they're having their plans, and their plans are different. So now they have to come together, and they have to meld their plans together, where this eliminates that issue from the get-go.
Yeah, we had a discussion with MID some time ago leading up to this, and I think the JPA is definitely, the direction we want to go in. We don't want to take this on by ourselves. So, let's see, do we want to take an action item on this and for approval to sign on to the MOU? Is that my understanding of this? Okay. So we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move word is right. Move to enter into the MOU with the other agencies that are involved within the Merced groundwater subbasin to join the MOU on the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Any further questions? Call for the question.
Raymond?
No.
Bergman?
I don't think I've got enough information just on what I've seen here. I'd like to have a little more before we take any action on it. So for that, I'd like to, I'll vote no and try and bring it back to get a little more information.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Price?
Yes?
Motion fails.
Mr. Bergman?
I'd just like a little more time to study this, and so I would like to make a motion that we bring this back at a future meeting, but I'd like to have some more information. I didn't get enough in this to satisfy my mind.
Would the next meeting be sufficient enough
If
time?
we can get some more information on it, maybe a little more information, more in depth on exactly what we're doing here, I'd be happy with that.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
No.
Bergman?
Yes.
Price?
Yes?
Motion carries. Funding and budget matters. Treasurer's report for the months of December 2015, January 2016, and February 2016.
Mr. Heller?
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. Before you are 3 months of Treasury report.
I know this is probably a dumb question, but there are no dumb questions. We are making all of our payments and
Yes.
making,
April 29th, I have the bond payment for the waste treatment plant, $2.3 million.
okay. Well, as anybody that may have seen the treasurer's report here, you see a lot of red with respect to the general fund and the capital fund.
Now, in February, the general fund's down to 2.7. So maybe we're going the right way.
We certainly hope so. Absolutely, and I appreciate that. Any questions for Mr. Heller at this time? Okay, entertain a motion. I'll make the motion that we accept the report as presented.
Second.
Any further comments? Call for the question.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Bergman?
Yes.
Price?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Heller.
Motion carries. City Attorney reports and updates. Reviewing Resolution Number 2868-15 regarding indoor cultivation of medical marijuana for personal use.
Currently, the city attorney's office is working on this issue, and more specifically, what requirements are necessary for personal cultivation. We believe that if there are requirements or amendments that need to be made, it should be made to the ordinance as a whole versus by way of resolution. Stacey Henderson has been working with staff and the police department to see, based on pending case law that's come down, or that will be coming down as well, what those restrictions will be and how that should be regulated. She intends to have an update to the council on the second meeting in April.
25th.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any comments from the council? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this matter?
I would, sir. My name is Susan Biscayne, and I'm actually a City of Merced resident. But I provide some of the plants and seeds for the people on medical marijuana that cultivate their own locally here. And I'm just on a kind of a fact-finding mission, if you don't mind if I ask a couple questions.
Certainly.
Oh, I thought everybody could hear me, whether I spoke in the microphone or not. But is it my understanding that there's a ban on all outdoor growing here, correct?
Yes.
And does that also include like a little greenhouse in the backyard for those people that have allergies? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Okay, so it all, if you're the only thing you would consider would be indoor grow? Or you're in the process of doing that research?
Right.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you so much. Oh, one more thing. Is there a limitation on the plants? Like, can they just have 2, or can they have 4, or can they have the state-appointed 6 inside?
That's under consideration.
That's under consideration.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else?
I'm way loud. Hi, I'm Garrett Mayer. I live on 1497 Elm Avenue. I first want to say I'm very proud that my city is considering looking at this again instead of just blanket, ban it all. I'm glad that you guys are going, okay, wait a minute, maybe. And while you're thinking about this, I want you guys to think of a couple things. First off, in November, there's a very good chance, at least the probabilities right now are looking like we might have it legal for recreational use in November. So you might want to look at how our bans will be affected by that new state legislation. If that so does pass, put something in there. But the other thing I wanted to add was not everything a representative has is always, or not everything that a representative does, which you guys are, is going to be popular. It's not going to, not every single person that voted for you is going to agree with every single thing that you say. So yeah, you have, but you have an obligation to do the right thing. And while it may not be the popular choice at the time, there's been many, many decisions made by representatives in our democracy as a country on local and national levels where people have gone, okay, they're not going to like this, but it's for the bettering of our society. Segregation, for example, there was many senators had to go against their constituency to end segregation. So while you have people in the neighborhood maybe going, I don't like that stuff, that are uninformed of what it might be, I want you to take that into consideration that, well, we may be doing what's better even though they don't realize it right now. In 10 years' time, people will go, whew, I'm glad they did the right thing there. So I wanted to say that, and I want to say thank you for revisiting this subject. And I hope you do revisit the other subjects as well, including dispensaries and delivery services. But in the meantime, this is a step in the right direction, and I appreciate that. And I hope you guys consider overturning the ban. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. Is there anyone else wishing to address this issue? And seeing none?
Discussion and possible action regarding water ordinance.
Again, You have your water ordinance, your city water ordinance in the packet with some suggested revisions in red line, and we're just looking to see whether or not the city council would like to provide staff with any possible direction regarding the current water ordinance.
Okay. Is there anyone on the council wishing to address this matter? No one? Mr. Bergman.
I'd just like to ask where these changes came from, who wrote them, and who suggested them.
That was a collaboration between myself and Mr. Olzak, who's been the spearhead of the enforcement, and the suggestions or questions from numerous residents as far as difficulty of falling within the current guidelines of the ordinance. Some of them were due to the fact of numerous people don't have automatic sprinklers. They water by hand, so falling into the hours of when the time frames didn't fit. Numerous people are of the age or the disability they can't get out and water prior to 7 o'clock in the morning, and they are fearful to get out after 7 o'clock at night. So they requested the times be changed so that they feel safe or they have the ability to get out and water. Some of it was due to the massive confusion of when actually the watering times were. From the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Some people thought they could start watering on Tuesday night and go clear into Wednesday morning. So it was try to clean up the language as far as that was. Some of it had to do with the fact that many yards are built that they're tilted such as the excessive runoff occurs no matter what. So we tried to build in some of that avoidance. Dealing with the new planning, if it's watered at night and we have an issue there, you can't contact the people at nighttime. So we tried to change the hours so the new planning, et cetera, occurred, the watering occurred during the daytime. So if you have an issue, we're able to contact the people more readily during the day, the ability to do that. And then big issue was, in my dealings with it, for the people that had issues with their timers on their automatic sprinklers, they were running 20, 30 minutes. They didn't know how to set their timers, so I would go out and set their timers, set them back to about 8 minutes per station. I found that to work extremely well. You didn't have the runoff. So that's where I came up with the 8 minutes. People were notoriously running their sprinklers for 20, 30 minutes at a time at each station. That's where we got the excessive amount of runoff. So people were wondering, how long do I run my sprinklers? Nobody knew. So we came up with the time of 8 minutes. It was kind of a hypothetical, and it worked to seem to eliminate a large amount of the problem with the runoff that we ran into. These are all suggestions and ideas that we came up with to try and successfully work to eliminate the excessive amount of watering, excessive amount of notices we gave to people, and to reduce the amount of actually water that this town used. We went from 24% down to up to a 38% savings because we helped people implement a lot of these things here. And so we thought that it would be good to try to implement them into the ordinance and make it more successful rather than to make it more restrictive.
Well, from what I'm read in here, I agree the times need to be changed because there are elderly, there are those that don't have the automatic sprinklers that need the time for that. But the rest of this, when you're talking about angled yards, I have one and I understand that. But all you just explained should be done with education, not penalties. Putting in here $1,000 fines and up to 30 days in jail after you get a warning is utter ridiculous. Most of what in here, that was put in here, is unnecessary, and you're just making things so much more difficult, and you're holding a hammer over people's head. And I think it's, excuse the word, but it's asinine, the things that have been put in here. Changing the times, I fully agree with. The rest of this is totally unnecessary, and I would not support any of it.
Well, for your matter of fact, none of the fines and anything were changed in here. These were all from the original ordinance.
$1,000 30-day was added. That
No, it was
in
not.
there before.
It was not. It's
Well,
not
I was
in red.
really
It was
the
not
first one to
changed. It was from the
Gentlemen.
original ordinance. If you read your original ordinance, that was all left in there. That was all from the original ordinance. If it's not in red, it wasn't changed.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this matter? Well, let me just interject here. I think there's certain things that should be also added into here. I've suggested it in the past. I'll take it and suggest it again. One of which is I think we should adopt a 1 day per week watering during the winter months. As I'm sure everyone here realizes, we had some pretty decent rain here over the past few months. And to continue to say that 2 days a week is something that we should be doing, I think is frankly kind of absurd. I think we can go and adopt the same type of a deal like what they have down in Fresno and other entities where it's just 1 day a week. You know, we can live with that through the winter months. In my own personal situation, I don't think we put a drop of water on our lawn for 4 months, 5 months. It's all nice and green and growing like crazy right now because of the rainwater. So I can't say that's everybody's situation, but nonetheless. Councilmember Raymond.
Fees have just gone up, and we're asking people to continually cut their usage. We're still leaning towards a penalty-based system instead of a reward-based system. We need to think about the public as well while we're doing this. And I still don't agree with the ordinance at all. It's another example of governmental overreach. I ran into a lady on Juniper, elderly woman, who took her medicine and fell asleep and was afraid of the penalties she can get because she overwatered. We're turning elderly people into criminals. And it's, my opinion is the whole thing needs to be redone.
Well, I can only say, it may sound like a government overreach, but it's unfortunately state mandated as well, and that hasn't been lifted on us. So I agree with you up to a point, but I think that, you know, all these changes and things, you know, to try to have a better product is okay in the spirit of the matter. I would like to suggest, you know, we could sit here and talk till breakfast on this. I would suggest that perhaps we table this and bring it back perhaps at the 25th of April meeting and see what changes each of the council members may have and revisions they may have. And I'd put that in form of a motion, if need be.
I'll second.
Is there anyone in the audience again that wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am. Speak. Come to the podium, please. Yes, please. And just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Denise Hooverman. And so talking about the water, why don't we enforce mulch or use mulch or, you know, mulch is purpose of keeping water in. There's mulch laying in piles and piles in this park over here on Buhog. And we need the mulch. We need it to be put out places. So with the water, you know, and penalizing people, why don't we give them some mulch?
Did my wife send you up here?
No, but I've emailed you a few times about this, so maybe that's why it's in your ear. I mean, there's also like dead trees around, laying around everywhere. This is my 5th state in 17 years. I have lots of ideas, lots of different ideas have happened other places. In Indiana, they collect all the trees, they take them to a park, volunteers do. They mulch it up, they take it home in their own bags or whatever, and you've got the situation covered. I mean, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I think that should maybe be put into it too, and there's lots of volunteers that would love to help do that. That's all I have for you right now, but I have a lot more for you. I'll email.
Thanks for the warning.
All right.
Darren? Darren? Darren, just a question. Do you know whether or not the county landfill provides the mulching and things like that?
When there's mulch available.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know the particulars of that, if there's a fee for it or just how it works?
I don't think there is a fee for it, but at MCAG, when they update us on it, I remember in the middle
Yeah.
of the summer, we did have mulch available at one point, and
Right.
it was, for as far as I understand, it was free.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was just curious about that because she brings up a very good point, the xeriscape type landscapes and things like that and the mulch is one thing. At our house, what we do is we make our own and composting and all that kind of stuff like that. So if we can find out about that, we'll find out and we'll come back and we'll let people know the availability of something along those lines. But this is a very good suggestion. Is there anyone else wishing to address the matter?
I don't think it's free.
Only to you. Okay. We'll find out for sure and we'll get back and let everybody know. Okay. Okay, so, any further comments, questions? Motion and a second on the table. Call for the question.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Bergman?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. City Council matters. City Council comments and requests for future agenda items.
Let's start with Mr. Vineyard.
None.
Nothing. Mr. Raymond?
Well, multiple businesses have opened that I've talked to. One is expanded, and none of them have been offered the incentive to start up. And when talking to them, they say how great that is for their business if it had been offered, because it helps them with their rent. It's on the books here. It's unacceptable that it's not even being offered. We can't expect businesses to come in or even inquire if we're not putting it out there. We haven't been to the Board of Realtors. We haven't been to the Chamber of Commerce. We haven't been marketing this. We went to a trade show this month, and whenever we mentioned that, people have inquired. We even had a tire shop email regarding this. So it works when you put it out there, and that's what we have to do. So that's my advice there. Secondly, I just want to thank everybody. Everybody up here reached out to my family in our time of need and in the audience. CAL FIRE, who responded, did a fantastic job, as well as Riggs. Thank you all, and you guys are continually in my prayers, and my family's deepest thanks.
Thank you. Pro Tem Bergman?
Nothing to say.
Amazing.
Take note.
We're doing record time tonight, folks. I'm going to put him on the spot here. Lieutenant Joseph, if you would come forward tonight and would you give a short presentation or just report on the camping ordinance and how you applied it here along with our code enforcement here recently?
Yes, recently, as you know, Chief Petro assigned me the task, and you guys passed the ordinance regarding the homeless situation we had here. And Fabian Velasquez, our code enforcement officer, him and I got together and we went and we dealt with our city attorney and everything else. And we made connections with the Merced County to help the veterans out, to help the homeless veterans out. So what we did is we went out and passed out flyers for all the homeless camps around first, and we gave them incentives for veterans that needed assistance. They came out and did a countywide issue where they came out and passed out flyers and everything else. We found out a lot of the veterans that we had here, the homeless veterans, didn't want assistance from the program. So we kind of came back to the table and we decided at that time, we gave them again a warning that we're going to now implement our ordinance and for them to vacate the areas. We went to about 7-8 different sites throughout the city. We had over about 88 homeless people we made contact with. At which time we gave them fair warning, and then around March 15th, around that time frame, with the assistance with our public works and with some of our officers and volunteers, we went out to those locations where the homeless were at, and we cleaned up those areas, and they vacated those areas. During which time we found a lot of makeshift beds, homes in those areas. One of them behind Teasdale. We found several hypodermic needles that were used. We found several used condoms, many used condoms. We found all kinds of trash. We picked up close to about 15 to 20 tons of trash using the trash companies throughout. And then we hit an area on Sycamore, and we have about 5 or 6 other areas we're going to be hitting very soon. But we're giving them warnings. We're trying to give them assistance, we're trying to provide them, but we're finding out that it's not working. But this program is working because we're telling them we're moving their property, and that seems to be the issue of their concern. So, but with Fabian, our code enforcement officer, has done like I sent you guys the email before, done a great job getting this going with our city attorney and everything else.
Yeah. Councilmember Raymond.
Lieutenant Joseph, I just want to thank you on behalf of a local businesswoman who called. There was actually a transient or a criminally vagrant male defecating in front of her business.
Oh, that was Anthony we found. Right.
And you guys responded and handled it in good time, and she was thankful.
Thank you. No problem.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot for all this tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.
But anytime.
Yeah, but
Remember
again,
that
like I said,
payback thing?
we thank you for the city council, and I think the citizens appreciate too. It's nothing against we try to help them as much as we can,
Right.
but the issue is we had to go to this tactic to start getting it going. So.
Well, I know this is a huge concern of several of the business owners. We've had them in here and spoke to the council and others, and I am deeply appreciative that, we are taking a proactive response to their calls. And,
Yeah, I've had other cities contact me too after they saw that in the paper and stuff and other issues, and they've been asking for assistance too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, so I can't imagine that could have been a very pleasant
No, it was very,
cleanup.
we found chemicals, we found everything, you can
Right,
name it, we
right.
found it, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, in any case, thank you so much, Lieutenant Joseph. Today, we've had I guess you would, for lack of a better term, a emergency meeting set up with the subcommittee for the transportation expenditure plan, and completed a final draft, which will be presented. This is the countywide half-cent sales tax for road and regional projects pertaining to transportation, sidewalks and what have you. So we completed that today. It was just changes to language, things like that. So that's been completed and will be presented, and I would like to make the request that we bring this back to the council in anticipation of taking this on an action item on or about the 25th of April. This is something that all the entities are going to have to do. So if we can get that final draft, get it to the council members, to the staff, and out to the public for review. As we all know, summer is rapidly approaching, and with it comes the 4th of July. So I want to make a pitch for Greg McDaniel and Pinky McDaniel, who every year put their heart and soul into putting together a day-long event, second to none anywhere that I've seen here in our city. So please go to their website and, make a donation. These things don't happen without, cash contributions. And it's going to be another big deal this year, but again, it takes money, and we could sure use it to make sure this thing comes off. It's all privately supported, and we hope that people support this great event. Again, May 14th, Welcome Home Heroes. Just to kind of give you a quickie update on that, that time is rapidly approaching for that. On May 14th, John Corbett, if anybody remembers who John Corbett is, John Corbett was on a program. He was an actor back then, and still is, for that matter. Northern Exposure, do you remember that program? It was quite a while ago. Anyway, John Corbett has a country and western type of band, very good, and they will be the concert entertainment out there. And along with him will be his girlfriend, Bo Derek. And we also have confirmed 87 Warbird type airplanes that will be flying in. At least 2, but probably 4 F-18 fighter aircraft out of Lemoore, possibly 2 C-130 gunships, and we also have a drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, Arley Army, is going to also be there to sign autographs and shake hands and all that good stuff. So it's a full day of entertainment and also a job fair for veterans and all those that are in need of those services that are also included into the first responders, police, and fire, and what have you. So big day, May 14th, Saturday. And that's pretty much about it. Is there any other comments or final thoughts from the council? Anyone from the audience? Helen? We already know about the thermostat, so you don't have to remind us of that. Okay. Okay.
Sidewalk that goes from Buhack Road down Green Sands
Mhm.
to Gurr Road, where's it going to?
Where's
Is there
it
going
going?
to be a Neverland over there?
For now,
Who, did the city pay for that, or was that?
no.
Because it's a really nice sidewalk. But it goes nowhere. I mean,
Well, eventually it will. It's only the first phase.
okay, are there any businesses actually committed to that area that we're talking about?
Not as yet.
No, okay. Then I don't have to worry about it, because
But
I
you-
will be gone.
But, yeah. But as you may have seen, we had a formal ribbon cutting this last
I
week.
wasn't invited, and either was Judy. Are we not liked?
Blame Gina. She's the one who's in charge of it.
I'm an A, but Jeannie's a K, so.
Okay, all right. My apologies. Next ribbon cutting. I understand. Got you covered. Okay. If there isn't any more comments or questions or any of that sort of thing, we will call the meeting. Thank you for watching at home. This meeting is adjourned.